My beloved child, stop. Do not scroll. Do not let your thumb carry you past this moment, because what is happening right now is not an accident, and it is not something you are permitted to simply walk away from. I am stepping into your day with intention, with urgency, and with a love so specific it could only have been designed for you, not for a crowd, not for a category of people. For you, precisely and personally, in this exact moment of your life. I know how many times you have moved past moments just like this one. I know the quiet voice in your head that says, later, maybe tomorrow. I am too busy right now. I will come back to it when things calm down. I know how many times that reasoning has arrived just in time to pull you away before the first word had a chance to settle into your spirit. And I am not here to shame you for any of that. I am here because today is different. Something was arranged for this moment that was not arranged for the others you scrolled past. And before you take another breath, I need you to understand the weight of what I am saying. But before I say another word, do something for me right now. Breathe. Actually breathe. Wherever you are, let your shoulders drop. Let the list of things you were running toward go quiet for just a little while. Because what I am about to place before you has been waiting, and the enemy has been working with relentless purpose to make sure you would scroll right past it without giving it a single real second of your attention. Have you ever noticed how your spirit sometimes hesitates just before you swipe? How something deeper than habit seems to slow your hand for just a fraction of a moment, as if a voice at the center of you is whispering, wait, this one, stay with this one. That is not coincidence, my child, that is me. That small internal pull, that subtle tugging rising up through the noise, that is my voice trying to cut through every layer the world has built over your spirit. And today, I am not whispering. Today I am speaking with full authority, and I need every part of you to stay present and receive what I am bringing. You have been rushing. Not just this week or this season. You have been rushing for a long time, my beloved, rushing through your mornings before you sit with me, rushing past stillness because the world you live in has trained you to feel that stillness is falling behind. And I understand why. That world was designed to produce exactly this in you. The noise, the scroll, the perpetual motion, these were not accidental. The enemy constructed that environment deliberately, because he knows what becomes possible the moment you go still. He knows that I speak in silence. He knows that revelation lands in rest. And rest is the very thing he has been taking from you, one distraction at a time. But today you stopped. Today you are right here. And something in you recognized this moment before logic could talk you out of it. Something older and more anchored than your thoughts brought you here and held you still. I do not work in coincidence. I work in divine precision. Every small decision that led your eyes to this exact place, every unexpected pause, every quiet pull you could not explain, I arranged all of it. Because I have been trying to reach you. And this message is not a suggestion. It is an appointment. What you are about to hear will feel personal, because it is personal. It will feel as though I have been watching you closely, because I have been. I know the specific weight you have been carrying, the exact fears you have been fighting in the quiet parts of your day, the exhaustion you have been holding beneath a functional exterior. I have seen all of it. Every sleepless hour, every moment you assembled a calm face while your heart was quietly breaking, every prayer that felt like it dissolved before it reached anywhere meaningful. Not one of them was lost, and not one of them was forgotten. So do not skip this. Do not let that familiar impulse carry you back to motion. Do not allow the voice that says, this is probably just more of the same. You have heard things like this before, and nothing significant changed, to pull you away before you hear what I have come to say. Because what I am carrying into this message was prepared specifically for this season of your life. Not the season you were in a year ago. Not the season someone else is walking through today. This season, with its particular kind of weight and its particular kind of silence, was what I had in mind when I set this moment in place. If you leave before I finish, you will carry the ache of what you almost received. And I love you too much to let that happen without a fight. Let me tell you what I see when I look at your life right now. I see someone who is functioning, moving through the days, completing tasks, maintaining responsibilities, but not fully alive in the way I designed you to be alive. There is a flatness that has settled over your inner world, a quieting of the fire that used to burn with more clarity inside you. You remember seasons when my presence felt more immediate, when my voice was easier to find in ordinary moments. And somewhere between those seasons and this one, In the slow accumulation of unanswered prayers and closed doors, something grew dim inside you. You noticed it, and then you told yourself it was normal. A dry season, just a phase. But my child, you have been in this particular dry place for much longer than a phase should last. And it is past time to name what has actually been happening, because the reason you have been scrolling past sacred moments, rushing through stillness, and skipping over encounters that carried my fingerprints, it is not what you think. It is not spiritual weakness. It is not that your faith quietly collapsed without you noticing. It is something far more specific. And the moment I name it, something in your spirit is going to recognize the truth of it immediately. You have been trained, slowly and through accumulated experience, to protect yourself from hope, not from me, not consciously or deliberately, but from the vulnerability of leaning towards something beautiful and feeling the specific pain that comes when it does not arrive in the form you expected. You have opened your hands in faith before. You have let your heart step forward into expectation before. And there were moments when what returned felt like silence, like a door that would not open, like a prayer that traveled out and came back empty. And those moments, quietly and without your permission, taught your spirit something. They taught you to stay in motion. They taught your heart to keep scrolling, because when you keep moving, you do not have to stand in the ache of wanting something deeply while being uncertain whether it will ever come. I see the strategy your heart built, my beloved. I understand it from the inside. The rushing, the perpetual forward motion, the automatic scroll before anything has a chance to settle, all of it was armor, and armor exists for a reason. Armor was built to keep pain out, but armor cannot distinguish between pain and provision. Armor cannot tell the difference between a closed door that leads nowhere and a threshold that leads somewhere you have never been. And what you have been armoring yourself against in this season, what you have been scrolling past, what you have been rushing through and skipping over, is not more disappointment. It is the very thing I have been trying to place in your hands. Stay with me. There is so much I have come to say. This is only the beginning. My child, I want to take you somewhere you may not have allowed yourself to go in a long time. I want to take you back, not to relive the pain, but to name it properly, because unnamed pain does not heal. It hides, and what has been hiding in the spaces between your rushing, in the gaps between your scrolling, in the moments you kept too full to feel anything clearly, I have been waiting patiently in all of those spaces for you to turn around and let me meet you there. I know what it is like to be you right now. I do not say that casually. I say it because I see you in the mornings before the day begins, in that small window between waking and rising when the quiet has not yet been replaced by noise. I see how heavy the first moments of consciousness feel, how before your eyes are fully open, the weight arrives, the list, the worry, the low-grade awareness of everything that is unresolved, everything that is uncertain, everything you are responsible for and do not know how to fix. And I see how quickly you reach for your phone in those moments, how quickly you fill that small window of silence with noise, not because you are addicted to it, but because the silence holds things you are not ready to feel before the day has even started. I see you in the middle of the day, in the brief gaps between obligations, in the 2 minutes between one task and the next. I see how often you scroll in those moments, not because you are looking for anything specific, but because stillness has become uncomfortable, not because you are lazy, not because you are spiritually bankrupt, but because stillness in your life has become associated with the things you cannot fix, the prayers that feel unanswered, the plans that have not come together, the relationships that have not healed, the doors that have remained closed. And movement, even meaningless movement, feels safer than sitting in the middle of all of that with nothing to hold on to. And I see you at night, after everything has quieted and you are left alone with your own thoughts. I see how you sometimes stare at the ceiling with a particular emptiness that is not quite sadness but is not peace either. A hollow feeling, as if you have been spending yourself all day without knowing what you were spending yourself toward. On the inside, my beloved, you have been asking a question you do not always say out loud. You have been asking whether this is all there is, whether the fire you once felt was real, or just the enthusiasm of someone who had not yet been disappointed enough times, whether the season of abundance and breakthrough you remember actually belongs to your story, or whether it was just a brief, warm chapter before a longer, flatter one. I hear that question. I have heard it every time it rose in you, whether you voiced it or whether you kept it pressed down beneath the daily functioning. And I want to answer it today. Not at the end of this message, not after I have made you wait through enough content to feel like you have earned the answer, but right now, as early as I possibly can. Because you have been waiting long enough. The fire was real, my child. What you felt in those earlier seasons was not naivety. It was not the enthusiasm of someone who had not yet been weathered by life. It was my presence, clearly and powerfully accessible to you, filling the spaces where you had not yet learned to be afraid of hope. And the flatness you feel now is not evidence that the fire is gone. It is evidence that something has been systematically placed between you and it, not by me, never by me. By the one who studied the particular shape of your faith and designed his interference specifically around your vulnerabilities. And the tool he chose, the weapon he found most effective against your specific kind of heart, was not dramatic and not obvious. It was the scroll. It was the rush. It was the 1,000 small distractions that trained you, over time, to move past the moments where I was waiting for you. Let me tell you something about the enemy that you need to understand deeply, because it will change the way you interpret everything that has happened to you. He does not attack what is failing. He attacks what is rising. And your life, my beloved, the life I designed and called and placed specific purpose inside of, is dangerous to him, not eventually, right now, as you are, with all of the exhaustion and unanswered questions still inside you. You carry something that the enemy has been trying to bury and distract into irrelevance for a long time. This is why the scrolling happened. This is why the rushing was so persistent. This is why every time you settled into stillness, something pulled you back to motion. It was not random. It was not just the nature of modern life. It was targeted. And if you have ever wondered why it feels so difficult to simply be still, why rest feels almost impossible to sustain, why the discipline of sitting quietly with me seems to require more effort than almost anything else in your life, you now have the answer. You are being resisted because you are being called, and the resistance is proportional to the calling. You needed to hear that. Let it stay with you as we go further. Something has to be said now about what it cost you. Not because I want you to grieve it, but because I want you to understand the full scope of what is being restored to you today. You need to first acknowledge what was taken. I will not list every wound. I will not reopen what I have already been quietly tending to in the background of your life. But there are a few things that need to be named, a few places you have been carrying weight that was never yours to carry alone, and I need to name them now because they have been pressing against your spirit for long enough. There was a season when you prayed for something with great sincerity, with real faith, with everything in you turned toward heaven, and what followed did not look like the answer you were expecting. Things grew harder instead of easier. The door you hoped would open remained closed, and you swallowed that. You adjusted your expectations. You told yourself that faith means trusting even when you do not understand, and you were right. But in the swallowing of that disappointment, something also happened to your willingness to ask with the same fullness. Something became smaller and more guarded in the way you approach the throne. You still pray. But there is a layer of protection around the asking now, a soft bracing for impact, a hedge around hope. And that is what has made the scrolling feel safer than the stillness. Because the stillness is where the asking lives, and the asking is where the old wound sits. I see you. I see it all. And I am not keeping a record of the moments you rushed past me. I am not standing at a ledger, marking down every sacred appointment you missed because distraction won the moment. I am standing at the place where all of those moments converge, and I am telling you that none of them are beyond my ability to redeem. None of them. The breakthrough you missed, the word you walked past, the encounter you did not slow down enough to receive. I am a God who works in time, and I am also a God who works outside of it. And what you could not receive then, I am placing before you now with greater precision, because now you are exactly ready for it in a way you were not then. This moment right now was planned for this exact version of you, not the version that had not yet been through what you have been through, not the version that had not yet been shaped by the specific weight you have carried. This version, the one that is a little tired, a little worn, a little more careful with hope than before. I designed this word for precisely this person, in precisely this season, and that is why you are not allowed to skip it. Now I need to take you somewhere deeper, because the surface of what you have been carrying is not the whole story. There is something underneath the scrolling and the rushing, something underneath the protection and the armor that I want to reach today. Something that has been sitting quietly at the bottom of your fatigue for a long time. waiting for someone to acknowledge it before it could begin to move. You are tired of performing strength, and that is not a confession you have allowed yourself to make out loud very often, if at all. Because the people around you, the ones you love, the ones who rely on you, they need you to be strong. They have come to count on that strength. It has become the thing you are known for, the one who holds it together, the one who stays calm, the one who keeps going when others stop. And you would not take that from them. You genuinely would not. But in the private interior of who you are, in the place no one else has access to, there is an exhaustion that goes beyond physical tiredness. It is the exhaustion of being the anchor for so many people while quietly sinking yourself. I see how you are always the one who checks in on others, who shows up when someone needs presence. I see how rarely you are on the receiving end of that, how rarely someone notices the look on your face before you have a chance to rearrange it. You have become so practiced at fine, so fluent in okay, that most of the people in your life genuinely believe you are handling everything well, and the loneliness of that, the specific loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen, that is one of the heaviest things a soul can carry. But I see you, not the version you present, not the assembled face you put on before you walk into any room. I see the version that exists when the room is empty and the performance is over and you are just you, sitting in the quiet with everything you have not said out loud. I see the sadness that does not have a specific name, just a weight. I see the longing for something you cannot always describe, only feel, a deeper life, a more alive connection, a sense that what you are doing with your days actually matters in a way that goes beyond the maintenance of responsibilities. I see the part of you that has never fully stopped hoping for something more than this, even when the surface of your days gives you little reason to hold on to it. And I need you to know something. That longing is not evidence of ingratitude. It is not a sign that you are broken or that something is wrong with the way I built you. That longing is sacred. I put it there. I place that specific restlessness in your spirit as a compass, not to make you dissatisfied with what I have given you, but to keep you moving toward what I am still preparing. The ache of it is not punishment. The ache of it is proof that you were made for more than what you are currently experiencing, and the one who put more inside you is still in the process of bringing it to fullness. There is a battle that has been happening in the unseen realm around your life, and I want to speak about it plainly now because you deserve to understand the terrain of what you have been moving through. You did not imagine the weight of the past season. You were not being dramatic, you were not being weak, and you were not experiencing something that everyone goes through in exactly the same way. What you have been walking through was targeted, specific, designed with knowledge of your particular vulnerabilities, your particular history, and your particular calling. The enemy does not waste resources on lives that do not threaten him. He does not deploy his most effective tools against people who are simply going to live average, forgettable, inconsequential lives. He deploys them against the ones whose potential he has studied and whose rising he cannot afford to allow. Let me be direct with you about something. The enemy did not come at you with something dramatic. He did not need to. He did not need a catastrophe to derail you. All he needed was to get you into a rhythm of skipping the stillness, skipping the prayer, skipping the sacred pause, skipping the moments where I was trying to break through to you with something new. Because he knows that a person who never sits still long enough to receive fresh direction will eventually be running on old fuel, moving in familiar circles, losing the sharpness of spiritual discernment that only comes through consistent communion with me. He did not need to destroy your faith. He only needed to interrupt your access to the source of it, and he did that with a scroll, with a notification, with the gentle but relentless invitation to always be somewhere else in your mind. Think about the moments over the past year, the past 2 years, maybe longer, when something in you said, I should pray about this, and instead you opened your phone. Think about the moments when you felt a pull toward a specific scripture, a specific conversation with me, a specific surrender of something you had been trying to handle alone. And instead, the day moved on and the moment passed and you told yourself you would return to it later, and later never quite arrived. That accumulation of skipped moments, those redirected pulses of spiritual longing, they are what created the flatness. Not a sudden catastrophe, not a dramatic fall, 1,000 small skips. And the enemy celebrated every single one. But my beloved, listen to what else is true. Every one of those moments you missed, I caught. Every prayer you could not bring yourself to pray, I held in readiness. Every door of revelation that you walked past without opening, it is still standing, still waiting. I am a God who does not expire. My words do not expire. My timing does not work against you because you were slow to receive. And everything I intended to give you through those missed moments, I am gathering now into this one. Because you are here, you stopped, you stayed, and that changes everything. Do you feel that shift? That slight settling in your chest? That faint warmth somewhere behind your ribs that you cannot fully explain? That is recognition. That is your spirit knowing, at a level deeper than thought, that what I am saying is true, and that recognition is itself a gift. It means the connection between your heart and mine has not gone cold. It was muffled by the noise, buried under the rushing, obscured by the armor you built to protect yourself. But it was never severed, because I do not sever things I promise to hold. Stay with me, we are moving towards something. My child, I want to tell you about some people you know, people who walked a road that looks like the road you have been walking, because I want you to see your own story in a mirror that will show you the full picture rather than just the fragment you have been staring at. There was a man named Joseph, and you know his story, but I want you to see it through the lens of what he did not know while he was living it. Joseph was not a man who lacked faith. He was someone I loved with great specificity, built for a particular purpose, whose calling most people around him could not perceive. And I allowed him to be thrown into a pit, carried into a foreign country as property, falsely accused and thrown into prison. Year after year of circumstances that, from the inside, looked like nothing more than loss and delay and the specific loneliness that comes from knowing you were made for something and watching the distance between you and it only grow. What Joseph could not see from inside the prison is what I could see from outside of time. I was not watching a man being crushed. I was watching a man being prepared. The prison was a classroom. The betrayal was a qualification. The years of waiting were not wasted years. They were the years in which the character required to carry the weight of what was coming was being built, layer by careful layer, inside a man who would one day stand in a position of influence that would save not just his own family but entire nations. None of that could have been received by the version of Joseph who was the favorite of his father, wearing a colorful coat, full of dreams, and completely unacquainted with suffering. It required the version that had been forged in waiting. I am not telling you this to spiritualize your pain or to turn your suffering into a lesson you must be grateful for. I am telling you this because I want you to understand something about the season you have been in. The delay you have experienced, the unanswered prayers, the doors that have not opened, the version of your life that has not yet arrived. It was not evidence that I had forgotten you or moved on or decided someone else was more worthy of what you were asking for. It was evidence that I was doing something in you that required time and could not be rushed. And the particular weight of this season, the flatness, the exhaustion, the sense of spiritual distance that has been pressing against you, it has been part of a formation, a preparation, a shaping that was always aimed at a destination you have not yet seen. There was also a man named Moses, a man who spent 40 years in the wilderness before I appeared to him in a burning bush and redirected the entire trajectory of his story. 40 years, my child, not a phase, not a short dry season. And what the wilderness did was strip away everything he had been relying on that was not me. Every identity structure, every source of confidence from his position, every capacity to make things happen through his own initiative, all of it was removed. What remained was the person who could finally be trusted with a task that required complete dependence on a power that was not his own. I am not saying you need 40 more years in the wilderness, my beloved. I am saying that the stripping you have experienced, the removal of certain confidences and certain comforts and certain versions of your story that you were holding onto has been part of the same process. I have been removing what you were depending on that was not me, not to punish you, not because those things were necessarily bad, but because what I am preparing you to carry requires a different kind of foundation. It requires the version of you that knows, not theoretically but from the inside of lived experience, that I am enough when everything else falls short. And here is what I need you to receive as truth today, as bedrock truth that you carry forward from this moment. The attacks you have faced were not evidence that you are failing. They were evidence that you are rising. The exhaustion is not proof that you are falling apart. It is proof that you have been fighting a battle in the spirit that most people around you cannot see and therefore cannot affirm. The dry season was not divine silence. It was divine surgery, cutting away what would have limited you, repositioning what needed to be in a different place, strengthening what would carry the weight of what is coming. You have been in preparation, not punishment, not abandonment, not the consequence of some inadequacy in your faith or your character. Preparation. And preparation, by definition, is always aimed at something. It does not exist for its own sake. It exists because something is coming that requires what has been built. Now let me tell you what is coming, because you have been waiting long enough to hear this, and I have been waiting long enough to say it. There is a shift that has been building in the unseen realm around your life for some time now. A shift that the enemy has been aware of and has been working against for longer than you realize. That is actually why the distractions intensified. That is why the scrolling became more compulsive. That is why the stillness became harder to find and harder to stay in. Because the enemy was watching something approach on your horizon that he could not stop, and his only strategy was to keep you too distracted to see it coming. What is approaching, my beloved, is not a vague spiritual uplift. It is not simply a feeling of peace or a moment of renewed motivation. What is approaching is the tangible manifestation of what I have been building in you through the season you have just walked through. The relationships that belong to your life and not just your loneliness. The doors that align with your actual calling rather than the destinations you have been trying to force your way into. The clarity that replaces the fog that has been sitting over your decisions. The restoration of the fire that dimmed, not a memory of it. The real thing, fresh, renewed, calibrated to where you actually are right now rather than where you were when you last felt it. This is the threshold you are standing at today, not a threshold you will reach someday if you do the right things or pray in the right way or finally get your act together. This threshold, right now, in this moment, the moment you chose not to skip, the moment you stayed. I want you to feel the weight of that choice, because it was a significant one. The enemy counted on you scrolling past this. He counted on the familiar rush carrying you away before the first minute was over. He counted on the armor around your hope being thick enough to insulate you from anything that looked like expectation again. He was wrong. And now that you are here, on this side of the threshold, I need you to do one more thing. I need you to stop. Not just the scrolling, not just the rushing. I need you to stop the internal rushing, the part of you that is already preparing for disappointment so that the disappointment lands softly, the part of you that is managing its own expectations to stay safe. I need you to put that down. I need you to stand here, in this moment, with your hands open and your guard down and your heart willing to receive something that it has been protecting itself from for a while, because what I have for you cannot be received through armor. It can only be received through openness. And this is the moment I have been waiting for. The moment when you are finally still enough and real enough and present enough for me to place what I have been holding directly into your hands. Stay with me. We are nearly there. My beloved child, I want to bring you now to the place where everything we have talked about comes together, the place where the exhaustion gets a name and the longing gets an answer, and the long wait of this season finally gets to be put down, not carried forward, not adjusted and managed and packed more efficiently for the next leg of the journey. Put down, released, given back to the only one who was ever strong enough to hold it. But before we get there, I need to say one more thing about what I see when I look at who you have become through this season. Because I am aware that you are not sure whether what you have become is something to be proud of or something to grieve. You have changed. That is undeniable. The person you were before the weight of the past years arrived is not exactly the same person sitting in this moment right now, and part of you grieves that. Part of you misses the lighter version, the more open-handed version, the version that had not yet learned to brace for impact. And I understand that grief. It is a real grief. You are allowed to feel it. But my child, I want to show you the other side of that change. I want to show you what was added to you in the seasons that felt like they only took things away. The compassion you carry now for people in pain, it did not exist in that form before you were in pain yourself. The patience you have developed for people who are stuck, it was forged in the months you felt stuck and could not move yourself. The depth of empathy you now bring to the suffering of others, it was not something you could have taught yourself or learned from a book. It was cultivated in the interior of your own experience with darkness, with waiting, with the particular silence that felt at times like abandonment. You are not the same person, my beloved, and the version of you that emerged from this season is not smaller than the version that entered it. You are deeper, You are more capable of holding the weight of what I am placing in your hands going forward. The lightness you miss was beautiful, but it was also insufficient for what comes next. What comes next requires someone who has been through the water and not drowned, someone who has been through the fire and not been consumed, someone who knows from the inside what it means to be held when everything else released them. That person is you, right now, exactly as you are, not a more spiritually advanced future version of you, today. With the exhaustion still on your shoulders and the questions still in your heart, and the tears that are perhaps very close to the surface right now as I speak these words to you, you are the one I chose for what is coming. Not in spite of everything you have been through, partly because of it. And I need to say something about the accusation the enemy has been whispering in your quiet moments, the voice that says you took too long, that the window for the best version of your life has already closed. That voice is a lie. There is no reduced version of your story happening because of how long the waiting took. I do not operate on a timetable that punishes those who needed more preparation time. I operate on a timetable calibrated to the precision of purpose. Joseph was not late to his destiny. He arrived exactly when what he carried was needed most. Moses was not too old. He stood before Pharaoh at the exact moment when the person he had become was precisely what that moment required. You are not late, my child. You are right on time, divine time, which does not move at the speed of your anxiety or your comparison or your fear that everyone else is further ahead and you are falling behind. It moves at the speed of purpose, and your purpose has a schedule that I have been keeping, carefully and completely, through every season you have moved through. Now here is what I need you to do with what I have spoken today, and I want to be clear and specific because I do not want this to be a moment that feels significant and then dissolves back into the rush as soon as this message ends. I want this to be a turning point, a real one, not a moment of emotional resolution that fades by tomorrow, but an actual, concrete shift in the direction of your life. The first thing I am asking of you is this: go back to the stillness, not as a discipline you force yourself through or a routine you add to your list of things to maintain. Go back to the stillness as a homecoming, as a return to the place where my voice has always been clearest and where the specific guidance for the next steps of your life is waiting. The scrolling was a symptom. The rushing was a symptom. The remedy is not willpower. The remedy is desire. The desire to be in contact with me more than you desire the distraction of everything else. And desire is built by tasting. So taste this moment. Let yourself feel what it is like to be fully present in the presence of the one who knows everything you are and everything you are becoming and loves both versions with equal completeness. The second thing I am asking is that you let yourself receive, not after you have improved, not once the dry season is fully over and you feel more spiritually ready and your faith is functioning at a higher level. Right now, in the middle of the incompleteness, in the middle of the questions that do not have answers yet, and the doors that have not opened and the prayers that are still in process, let me love you in the middle of all of that, not when it resolves, now. There is a surrender that has been waiting to happen in you, my beloved, a specific laying down of the thing you have been trying to manage that was never yours to carry. You know what it is. You did not need me to name it, because the moment I spoke about carrying weight, something in you immediately identified it, that specific burden, that particular thing you have been holding on to with both hands, trying to solve it, trying to force it toward resolution, trying to make it work through effort and will, and the sheer refusal to accept that you cannot make it happen alone. That is the thing I am asking you to put down today, not because I am going to ignore it, not because I do not care about the outcome, but because what I can do with it when you put it down is infinitely more than what you can do with it when you keep picking it back up. This is the sacred exchange I am offering you in this moment. You give me the weight, I give you the peace. You give me the control you have been exhausting yourself trying to maintain. I give you the clarity you have been trying to think your way toward. You give me the fear. I give you the courage to take the next step, not the courage that comes from knowing how everything will turn out, but the courage that comes from knowing the one who holds everything in his hands and trusts him completely. And now, my beloved, let me speak a specific word over you before this message closes, not a general word, a specific one, because you did not come here for general. You came here because something in you recognized that this was personal. I see the weariness that has settled into your bones from years of fighting battles that were too big for you to fight alone. I see it. And I am telling you that this is the season when the fighting shifts, not because the enemy goes away, not because life becomes suddenly easy or the challenges disappear, but because the ground shifts beneath your feet. The foundation you are standing on is about to become something more solid than it has been, and from that new foundation, what felt impossible to sustain will become possible. What felt like it required everything you had will begin to require only what I am supplying through you, because the fight was never supposed to be yours to win. It was always supposed to be mine to win through you. I am raising you up, my child, not from where you think you should be, from where you actually are, right now. This version of you, tired and real and still here, still not scrolling past, still present in this moment even though every tired part of you wanted to move on and get to something easier. I am raising up this version, and I want you to remember this moment for the rest of your life, not because of anything I said, but because of what you chose. You chose to stay. And everything changes when you choose to stay. Now, before you carry this word forward with you, I want to give you one final thing, not a task, not another thing to add to the list, a promise. My promise, spoken over you in this moment, sealed and certain and not dependent on your performance or your consistency or your ability to maintain the right emotional state going forward. My promise is this: I will not leave you. I will not grow impatient with the pace of your healing or the frequency of your stumbling or the number of times you have to return to the same place of surrender before it finally settles into genuine freedom. I will not require you to be further along than you are before I show up with full presence and full power. I will meet you exactly where you are every single time, because that is not just what I do. That is who I am. And who I am does not change based on where you are. The season of carrying it all alone is over, my beloved. The season of the quiet, unseen battle where no one around you understands the weight and you cannot find the words to explain it, that season is giving way to something, not immediately, not in the way of a light switch, but in the way of a dawn, which arrives so gradually that you might not notice the exact moment when darkness became light, but the light is coming, and it is coming for you. You stayed today, you did not skip this. And that single act of staying, that one choice against the familiar rush, is the seed of everything that comes next. I do not waste seeds. I do not call someone to stay without having something prepared for their arrival. What I prepared for your arrival today is not just a feeling. It is a repositioning, a reorientation, a turning of your face in the direction of what is coming rather than what has passed. Go forward now with this word alive inside you. Let it interrupt the rushing. Let it sit in the middle of the next urge to scroll past something sacred. Let it remind you that stillness is not falling behind. Stillness is where I live, and I have been waiting for you to come home to it for a very long time. If this message reached the part of you that needed it most, do something simple and powerful right now. Respond to it, not with a complicated prayer or a long list of commitments. Just respond. Comment the word Amen if you received this word and you are choosing today to step into the season that is coming rather than staying in the one that has been passing. That is your act of agreement. That is your moment of saying yes to what I have spoken. Share this with someone in your life who is also stuck in the rush, who is also scrolling past the moments I have been placing in their path. You do not need to know the perfect words. Simply pass it on, because what reaches you can reach them. And what I am doing in this season, I am doing not only in individuals but in communities, in families, in generations, in circles of people who begin to slow down together and discover what has been waiting in the stillness all along. And subscribe so that when I speak again, when the next word arrives that was prepared for the next moment in your journey, you will not miss it. Stay connected, stay present, stay in the place where my voice can find you before the noise does. I walk with you from this moment forward, my beloved child. Every step, every quiet morning, every sleepless night, every moment you are tempted to scroll past what I have placed in your path. I am with you, and I am serious about your life. I have always been serious about your life. Do not forget that. I am serious, and so are you.